This is a children's stool from Ikea. I found it on the side of the road. It's called
Mammoth.
This is the floor in front of my couch. It came with the apartment and it probably cost more than it should. For the last 15 months it's been an empty spot in my apartment and I think it's time to change that. Something about the Ikea stool made me want to pull over and pick it up, and since it's been sitting right over there, the same feeling has me wanting to make a coffee table in its style. The first thing I did was draw a sketch of how I wanted the table to look. I like the bulbous look of the legs on the original stool, but I felt the roundness should be even more exaggerated. A lot of furniture I've been seeing online lately has put an emphasis on thin, streamlined extremities, and I wanted to shy away from that to bring a different look to the space. Although that's probably just my own personal algorithm. It's either that or mid-century modern furniture that gets sanded, painted green, and flipped for 4 times the price. Here I'm cutting the wood that I'll use for the tabletop. Since the stool is from Ikea, I did a quick search to see what types of wood are used in Scandinavian furniture. One of the first results was ash, and since it's pretty cheap, I went with that. Since I bought the wood unsurfaced and I don't own a jointer, I tried to make a planer sled to get a flat face. I thought it would be as simple as 1. Hot glue wood to reference board, 2. Run through planer, C. Proceed with nice surfaced wood. But that's not the case. Step 1. Glue it down with a wedge to stop it from rocking and sliding. Step 2. Run it through the planer until the top face is completely flat. And finally, step 3. Proceed with nice, flat... Hey, what the heck is that? Alright, that didn't work at all, but luckily I have a coworker who let me use his jointer. Does anybody have any experience buying pre-milled lumber? Is that a thing? Are there any hurdles to that? It's really hard to tell, but uneven clamping pressure did cause this to cup ever so slightly. This was my first time making a circle jig for my router, and it was pretty satisfying. I record these on my phone and sometimes I run out of room for video storage, but I trimmed this off later. I originally planned to make this table with 4 legs to match the stool, but I settled on 3 for 2 main reasons. First, a 3-legged table isn't going to wobble, and since the top is already cupped, I didn't want to compound errors. Second, it's only 75% of the work for the same effect. I originally made this foam core template as a lathing reference, but here I'm using it to eyeball an angle for the legs. To get this angle, I'm going to mount the legs to an angled block that's going to be inset to the bottom of the table. Something like this. I still don't own a decent, or even a relatively sharp chisel, so I had to tough it out using what I had. I know they say it's more dangerous to use tools with dull edges, but I'm always really conflicted when it comes to buying new stuff. Like, I started doing this to make my girlfriend a gift using tools in my dad's garage. And I've made a couple upgrades here and there, but I don't make any money from doing this. I really just make stuff for myself using free reclaimed barn wood that's been chewed up by termites, until this project when I ran out. So I don't know, it just feels more justifiable to not spend the money than to buy nice tools to work on projects that aren't going to recoup the cost. I zoned out while sitting here editing this video. Zoned out in a 1,000-yard stare, seemingly onto nothing in particular, and looking away feels like it'll tear off and leave behind a part of my soul with the nothing at which I had been glaring. But that would turn nothing into something. Or maybe there was something there all along, hidden from the visible spectrum of light but perceived in such a desperate way nonetheless. It's said that if you were to fly out to the pillars of creation, they wouldn't be the incomprehensibly tall towers of hot gas as shown by the Hubble and James Webb telescopes. Those instruments pick up infrared light that's later converted to the visible spectrum for humans to be able to perceive their structure. They don't exist in a state that we can directly interpret. But maybe there is something here, something in the nothing that the daggers of my stare have laid into, cut up and exposed outside of visible light. Still grand enough that I don't want to look away, but too much to comprehend. What the hell? What time is it? Why didn't you wake me up? You know, I don't really care. Can we just get back to it? No, I'm not mad. I just had the worst dream. Alright, no, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Really, I'm sorry. Anyway, this is going to be one of the legs, and it does include some of that reclaimed wood that I was talking about earlier. I was originally planning on lathing this with the bowl turning chuck for extra stability, which is what all of those blue dots on the end are. But when the original chuck, the one that's basically just 4 chisels that grips into the wood, wouldn't come out of the lathe, I started looking for alternative options. My first idea was to use a spoke shape, which I started regretting immediately because of how labor intensive it was. All 3 legs probably would have taken me weeks to finish. And I looked like a little toddler playing in the sandbox using this thing. So I gave up and I went to try the lathe, but you can see the first thing that I did was make a mistake. That red handle should not be moving. I caught that before these 10 pounds of violently spinning wood were launched into my forehead, and I just kept going like I knew what I was doing. And after that, it kind of just looks like a baseball bat, so I really should have just cut some Louisville Sluggers up to save some time. I was about to finish the last of the legs when I found out that my lathe shit the bed. Turning this handle should extend the tailstock to pin the wood in place, but its retaining collar inside the housing broke off, so now it just kind of pops out. I'm also half making up these terms, so they might not be totally accurate. All I really need to do is replace this steel rod that holds the collar in place and pop everything back together. I was being a little smooth-brained trying to put this back together inside the housing, but then I noticed this Allen nut, and I felt the brain ridge pop into place. And now, after putting everything back together, it works again. So if you were tuning in just to witness the repair of a 1940s Boyce Crane wood lathe, which is weird because that's not how I advertise this video, you may now log off. To hold the legs in place, I used a single screw right down the middle to secure the glue up. Here's the same diagram from before showing what I mean. In hindsight, one feels like it might end up being a little bit weak, and I probably should have gone with 2 or 3, but I have this constant overwhelming urge to rush through every project that I work on, constantly telling me, oh, if it breaks, just fix it later. So I went with 1. Putting the first leg in, I noticed that it was a little bit wobbly because of that center screw. So I tried to take it out, countersink it a bit, and then put it back in. But I must have drilled too hard because it just snapped. I was upset, and you can see my angry little fingers working overtime because of it. The glue was looking a little bit bare here, so I used a lot more when I put it back together. And despite that beautiful sign from the universe that 1 screw may not have been enough, I just put another one in slightly off-center and put it back together. Hey, can somebody get her out of there? Hey. Thanks. Here I'm just softening the edges so my dog doesn't hurt herself if she crawls under the table. These cracks started forming after I lathed the legs, so I'm just going to flood them with super glue and never think about them again. The finishing process is still kind of foreign to me, so I just looked up some larger YouTubers and did what they said, vaguely. This table is for everyday personal use, so I don't need it to be customer ready. I just need it to be good enough. But my biggest mistake was doing this at my apartment. Rubio Monocoat is what it is, and it smells kind of good, kind of bad, but one open window is not enough to clear out the room. I would also wear gloves. Don't not wear gloves. And now it's done. I really like the way the grain looks. It kind of looks like Jupiter from above, which is really cool. And now I have somewhere reasonable to put my drinks where I don't have to worry about my sleeve getting caught on the coaster and knocking it over. And a place that I could put my feet up that's slightly taller than the last place I could put my feet up. God damn it. No, actually, what does this thing even do for me? It's got these big baseball bat legs that are impossible to avoid with your toes from anywhere in a 10-foot radius. And with 3 legs, it looks goofy and off-center from the wrong angle. You know, there's a reason this Ikea stool only costs $10, and there's a reason that somebody threw it out on the side of the road. Now that I've been living with this table for a couple days, I'm beginning to understand. And there's only one logical conclusion that I can come up with. I need to double it and give it to the next person.